Couch of Thrones, yeah! Couch of Thrones.
Welcome to Couch of Thrones. Do we take a sip now?
Oh,
I
yeah.
think so.
Oh, why else would there be a point?
Nice.
Yes.
It
Very
seems
nice.
we miss the. Do we miss the Dornish people? Does this
Oh,
feel
yes.
like a Dornish red?
A bit of a Dornish red.
I don't miss.
Yeah.
I don't miss Dorn.
I
No?
do.
You miss Dorn?
Oberyn.
Oberyn.
Oh, I
but
miss
we never
Oberyn,
really
yeah.
saw him in.
Was he
Dorne.
in Dorne ever?
Never.
But he brought Dorne.
He brought
to
Dorne to the world.
Dorne to
Yep.
the people, yes. Welcome everyone to Couch of Thrones, the show where we talk about Game of Thrones through the lens of our Fantasizer Fantasy League. So you're looking at three different participants who represent three different teams in our league right now.
And so this is David here at the top.
David
along
and
with Aaron.
And Aaron.
David and
The team
Aaron.
has no name and no points.
And they lost last year, which is why they were at the top of the draft. And then,
Great start.
not to sound too impressive, because I was second loser and I got to go second. So that's me right there. And then all the way down here, almost at the total winner takes all, is Melissa. She went second to last on the draft.
Yeah.
So these are the teams we're looking at on this particular episode.
Yeah.
And of
so-
course, we're comparing how all the teams did.
Right.
But, we only have 3 horses in this race.
Yeah, so we have 3 other teams that are not present, but they might join us and comment on Facebook and stuff too. So we will look forward to that. My team name is In the Heat of the Mormont, my deep love for the Mormont family. And what's your name, Matt?
Mine is Jamie King Me Crazy, because last year Jamie Lannister was like I was really hoping he was going to bring it home for me, and clearly he did not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tried.
Okay, so speaking about bringing it home, first episode of season 8, exciting. A lot of mirrors to the first episode of the entire series, really, if you break it down, right? We start with a caravan arriving in Winterfell. The episode was called Winterfell. I found that really moving. I loved the little kid who was like basically Bran, Bran proxy, if you will. Yeah, I quite loved it. And I thought the episode had a lot of really powerful moments. The funny thing about being in the league is that sometimes a lot of things happen in the episode, but you don't get a lot of points. And actually, it was a really quiet night for points in general, because there wasn't a ton of violence. You get mostly points for violence and promotions and sort of big moves. And there wasn't a ton of that, really. It was a lot of planting seeds.
But
right?
thankfully you get points for sex.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Bronn picked up a few points last night.
Yeah, that worked out. I gotta say, my team is largely, it's very Night King heavy.
Yeah.
My first pick was the Night King because he's just in charge of so much carnage, and I'm hoping that goes through for 6 episodes. He did not even appear in this episode.
No.
But I gotta say, my second pick and my 5th pick both got it on. And so, I got some points there.
Got some points. There was more sex than I expected, because I felt like things are coming to a head. There's a lot of drama happening.
You think there's not time for frivolous dilly-dallying.
But I suppose, as we said in our draft, when people get stressed, before war, they gotta...
They do things.
Well, and if they don't have the
Things.
sex now, they're not going to have time later.
Ever,
So it's good that
because-
they're front-loading it, I think.
I want to say this. This show, we're in the 8th season. There's been a lot of criticism about lots of different parts of the show, right? It's not perfect, even though it's great to watch and very enjoyable. Why is it that still there's so many fully naked women and Bronn is PG-13 nudity?
His pants were still on for a lot of that,
They
too,
just
right?
pulled down his pants a bit
Yeah,
to have sex with him.
He's got to be ready to go. He's got important things.
Yeah, that was a
wearing,
problem.
He's got Lannisters to kill. Come on.
It's not like there's easy access in those Bronn tight
Leather,
leather pants.
yeah.
His sexy Bronn pants.
I feel like he's specifically had them tailored for that purpose.
Right.
This is Bronn. I
He
can't
went into
imagine-
the tailor and
Yeah.
said, here's the 3 things I need.
I need easy access.
Did we find it surprising, going to the next group of people having sex, did we find it surprising that Cersei actually changed her mind and then got it on with Euron?
No, I don't find that surprising at all, because I feel like it was a careful calculation, realizing that if Euron succeeds and is around in 9 months, he's going to wonder where this baby came
Right,
from.
fair enough.
So
Yeah.
I think it was really maybe 10% her feeling like, wouldn't it be nice to have a good time, and 90% her making sure things don't go bad in 8.5 months.
I think it was more. I think her enjoyment was more than 10%. I think there was a big part of her that was like, I need to work out my disappointment that there aren't going to be any elephants.
Yes.
Right?
Well, very sad about the elephant
so
list
sad
situation.
That almost felt like a line for the fans too, because we've been hearing about elephants.
Yes!
And it's like, yeah, we're not going to do that.
We've been told there were elephants.
No,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. Sorry.
We don't have the budget.
Yeah.
Two
Look,
people are going to mount dragons and
That's right.
fly them right now.
That's
We don't have time for. We don't have Oliphant money. Come on.
Oliphant money, speaking of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So we'll get more into the episode, but so just to be clear about our standings, maybe that'll help us get into it. So last night, a lot of surprises. Beric Dondarrion,
Yeah.
who I love Beric Dondarrion, got the most points of anyone in the entire cast last night because he lit up that sword like a torch,
Mm-hmm.
and then he killed poor undead Ned Umber.
Yeah, which gets points. Killing. I mean, Ned got points.
Ned got points
For dying.
in a memorable,
A very memorable way.
Chris Bond picked Ned Umber as his
Last.
final choice,
a begrudging.
begrudgingly.
Ned was the third last person
Yeah.
picked in the whole draft.
And if he hadn't have, I would have. So I feel a little bit bad about that.
Yeah.
Could have gotten those sweet 25 points.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Beric Dondarrion scored really high. And so Wendy did very well because Beric scored high, and then Sansa was chosen as the MVP of the episode by the scorekeepers, so she got 20 points for that. So Wendy is currently leading with 95 points because of only those two characters,
Yeah.
which is remarkable.
Well, I mean, I got all my points from two characters.
Yeah, you did. Euron
Yeah.
and Bronn, right?
Yeah.
I got all my points for two characters, but I only got 15 points.
So should we go with our the breakdown of all the points we
Yeah.
got this? What was the full number of points that Brock and Aaron got?
They got 0
0
points.
points.
0 points. Okay, so that's
I mean,
a big
I
exciting
mean-
zero.
And again, just to Bran mentioned a vision, but
But he didn't have it.
vision.
Yeah.
You get
So-
points for magic, but
So Aaron and I, we were trying to enjoy the program, but we also said, is that a vision?
Vision-ish.
He mentioned a vision
No.
the same way
A
that
previous
Euron and
vision.
Cersei suggested
Yeah.
lovemaking,
no.
so we don't get points.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But now on the topic of some lovemaking, how many points did I get?
You, Matt, ended up with 60 points.
Respectable 60
Yeah,
points.
60 points.
Wow, my arm does not like.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. And then who's next?
It is Trevor
Trevor.
Martin.
50 points.
50
Now,
points. And he's got a
Trevor
bruiser team.
and Jon Snow. I mean, Jon Snow did well for Trevor, but so did Theon, and Trevor was very reluctant to take Theon on. But Theon Greyjoy,
He
man.
mounted a rescue.
I want to say this. Can we pause for a second and just talk about how quickly everything happened last night? I could not believe the speed at which we were traveling from narrative point to narrative point. Like in any of the areas where we thought maybe there would be a bit of a story, like Theon and Yara and Euron, and like any kind of interference with Theon rescuing her, and there was just none. And then they have a conversation, and Yara's like, "Great, I go here, you go there. Check, narrative point."
It kind of made me feel like when they were writing season 7, they thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if Yara is Euron's prisoner? Cool, end of season. And then they sat down to write season 8, and they were like, oh, we don't have time to resolve that in any way other than one scene, and you're out. Because it was just boom, boom, boom. And now Yara and Euron and Theon are all on their own journeys. I think they had another plan and didn't have time for it.
I imagine that's probably true about a lot of the secondary storylines that fans maybe have glommed onto a bit. Yara's a popular character because she's fantastic.
Who has Yara?
We do.
You have Yara.
Nice.
Yeah.
0 points.
Yeah, but you
she'll
know
come
what?
around.
I think so I think there's a lot of interesting stuff around what she talks about in terms of the Iron Islands and how, White Walkers and whites can't swim. They don't cross water, which has been proven a couple of times in the show now. And so there's, they're planting a seed that perhaps it could be a refuge. Now, there's also other ways for them to use that tactic, because I have a strong feeling that the North by episode 3 is pretty decimated, and so they're gonna have to go south and figure something out, right?
Well, it's going to be overrun. Like, I have no idea what they think the North is going to be good for when there is an impossible number of dead things coming after them.
Yeah.
Every time one of them kills one of us, there's another one of them.
Right.
Like that's not a war you can win in Winterfell. They're
No.
just going to have to keep running south. Everyone's going to be in Dorne by the end of this.
Right, and so I think it's interesting because part of, I think, what is interesting about the story is their desire to hold on to that old system, to hold on to their lands, and to hold on to, like, the nostalgia for Winterfell I felt so palpably last
definitely.
night, you know? Everything John said about, you know, what he had already told Daenerys and the tree and the whatchamacallit, why can't I think of the crypts? Like they visited every important area except for the tower, basically, where Bran was pushed off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think.
But we did get to have sort of a callback to the Bran Jaime relationship in that last sequence, and I feel like Winterfell. We checked off every box, and I don't think we will see it for very many more episodes.
Winterfell, yeah.
And we'll be out of there.
I think they gave it its real
Swan song.
That's it.
due. Yeah, I would agree.
And I've got Aaron saying Bran is a disappointment.
Oh, no.
And Angie Brock is saying, I agree with Aaron.
Oh, Bran! So much shade for Bran.
And then Aaron's
Bran's
also
a
saying
slow burn. Though.
Aaron's also saying Yara will be safe from the White Walkers, but then she won't be part of the fight. I want Yara to get some kill points.
Yeah, so that's what we thought. We thought there was a lot of opportunity, like a lot of, I say opportunity, but really a lot of potential to write people off the show last night. So we thought maybe that was happening with Euron when he said, I'm going back to the Iron Islands. There's a really solid chance, and you've given me a little bit of hope by saying people might use that as a refuge, but she might be off. Like there's a chance.
We never see her again.
No, we'll see her again.
Okay, good. I hope.
I would find it really hard to believe that we don't see her again. I don't know how much we'll see her.
Right.
But I don't think that's the end of Yara. I mean, I don't think they would do that. I think they are doing. I think Benioff and Weiss, I think, are going to try and balance out here compelling storytelling and fan service. They have to do a certain amount of fan service.
That, and Yara has not heard about ice dragons yet.
Right.
It seems really safe from dead guys walking. But it's not so safe from dead dragons flying.
Yeah.
So that the Syrian becomes a little bit of like a porter service, bringing people
That's
over.
right, he flies them over.
Or just
It's up and down.
or just gives
your drink.
or just gives the Iron Islands a nice little taste of the wall medicine. Because
Yeah.
I don't think the Iron Islands would stand up very much to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's also, she might get points for things like, she might get a promotion if Euron dies, or she goes back to the Iron Islands and they are like, you are the rightful queen. If she somehow, like, there's other ways for her to potentially get points. So it remains to be seen. I think what's exciting
I'd
about...
be surprised if they didn't say, oh my god, Yara's back, thank goodness. That crazy Euron made us build 1,000 ships in 10 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Because that was bonkers.
Yeah,
that was
nobody
like,
can do that.
You're going to build an armada? That's a 15-year job.
Yeah.
That's not like, hey, it's Thursday, let's just build our...
What's dead can never die, or whatever it is. Is that it?
Yeah, what is dead can never die.
Which you're also not superhuman.
But I wonder if what's dead can never die has anything to do with the walkers themselves.
Yeah.
And the idea that maybe the people from the Iron Islands have had ancient run-ins with these creatures. I mean, they've got the drowned god thing, but it just is eerily similar to what the Night King and his buds are all about.
I'll say as well, this has come up a lot in our conversations, but I'm curious about Essos because, you know, there's a whole other place nearby that isn't experiencing this, or at least we don't think it is, because why would the Gold Company come to Westeros to fight? I mean, they're getting paid, I suppose, but Westeros is an island. So there is a possibility of...
Well, it's a continent, really.
I guess, but meaning that it's surrounded by water.
As far as we know don't know what happens when you go all the way north.
Yeah, but there's enough water where you could... I mean, you're not going to go north now.
Nope.
Anyway, I find this the whole seed of, like, where they could flee to. They could also go to Dragonstone again. And they actually... people were talking a lot about how in the trailer for Season 8... they thought that they saw a little clip of a moment of Daenerys in front of the fire at Dragonstone. So it's possible that she might retreat to Dragonstone. I don't know. The cool thing about this season, what excites me about it, because it's past where the books are, and because so much is possible, there are so many theories, and even people who are experts, who have like dissected every episode, who've read George R.R. Martin's letters to the writers, who've done all of that research, they all disagree at certain points about what they think is going to happen. That is truly exciting.
Yeah,
I think.
Absolutely. Being in no man's land when it's a show that you have been able to follow along with for years is fascinating. Because Lord of the Rings, you knew where it was all going to go, and we've known for generations. But on something like Westworld, nobody has any idea what's going to happen because it doesn't have that kind of source material. It's got a movie from 60 years ago.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with something that had a roadmap, a public roadmap, and then didn't, it's kind of like getting just sort of thrown to the wolves, the dire wolves.
The dire wolves.
And in some respect, that's why this pool we're doing has been good the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, would a season 1 fantasy Game of Thrones pool
be any fun at all?
possible when you kind of already know
the beats?
You're just guessing what they'll select.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as fun, that's for sure.
That's right.
Yeah, it'd be a lot safer.
Right. So I mean, the idea of if we would not, I don't think this would exist if the books were finished and we knew who sat on the Iron Throne, or how many people sit on the Iron, or no one, or
who kills a dragon? Because killing a dragon gets you some crazy points.
Crazy points. I cannot wait for my gallery to do it. Anyway, let's check back in. So who are we at now?
So Bondo, I think it's important to note that poor
Ned
is off the board now.
Yeah.
But not gone, but not forgotten. He got some points for
Gone,
Bondo.
but never forgotten.
No, poor little Ned. That was
Bondo
such a
did
great
well.
moment when he appeared. His
Oh
cute
my god,
little
his cute little pop in.
Yeah.
just to
little
remind,
number.
just so we remembered him,
Who
so
he
that
is.
in 48 minutes when he was pinned up on the wall like a
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it was really sad.
Yeah.
Poor Ned Umber.
He was art though. He was good art.
He was art. That
Beautiful.
actually, I read an interesting article about the art, the sort of dismembered.
The mandala.
And also how it vaguely, because it was on fire like that, how it looked a bit like the Targaryen sigil
that's
from
interesting.
far away. Like, very cool. I loved that take on
It's
it.
also a serious callback to season 1.
Yeah, with the
geometry of death.
Yeah.
So how many points did
Well,
did
these
Chris
are,
Bond
and I
get?
want to say these are rough numbers because Fantasizer's still working stuff out. But
And there is room to contend. You can say, no, Sansa was contest, yeah. There, you can say, no, Sansa was a little more of a smartass than you're giving her credit for, and then next thing you know, Sansa's got more points.
we're going to talk about win in a second. But to finish this off, because I agree, Bondo got 80 points, I think.
80 points.
But that is largely because he had Cersei boned, and she also got wit points.
Yes.
Daenerys rode a dragon, and Ned Umber bit it. So you did well, Bondo. You had a good week because you got 3 good amount of points for those three characters.
Well, and Trevor is joining us right now.
Oh, hey, Trevor.
And we just celebrated Trevor's 50 points.
50 points,
So,
as of
nice
right
work
now,
there.
anyway. We'll verify those numbers. Are we at me now?
We're at you. How'd you do?
My sad 15 points.
And
Okay.
what got you those 15 points?
Biggest shocker for me of the evening is that Qyburn got me the most points.
Yes.
I got 10 points because Qyburn was watching Bronn have sex, which is also the
Creepy.
weirdest way to get points.
But it's also a very Qyburn way to get points.
Qyburn's so creepy.
Yeah.
I'm kind of into it.
Yeah.
He's become quite the character. I don't know. It's
He's pretty funny.
Quite the character.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of an understatement, I think, for Qyburn.
Yeah.
But he's like he's a real big player in this.
He's a
in
big
this
player.
world.
Fair,
He's
yeah.
a big deal. He's the hand of the queen.
He's the hand of the queen. So he was watching Bronn have sex. He also, interestingly enough, I did some research because we speculated last night, but yes, that crossbow that he gives to Bronn is the very same crossbow that Tyrion used to kill Tywin.
Joffrey used also
Yeah. Was it Joffrey's as well?
Oh yeah, Joffrey
To
had that
kill
gnarly
Raz.
to kill Raz.
Oh, I miss Raz.
And to- Raz
was
Just
lovely.
gonna say that.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
We couldn't
Raz.
watch the Raz episode on. Aaron specifically said, "Let's not watch the Raz."
I
episode.
loved her so much, and that episode. There's a couple of episodes with Raz that are heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I loved that actress.
Yeah, she was great.
Man, remember the days? Remember
To
those
Raz.
early days to Raz?
To Raz.
R.I.P. Raz.
6 years later.
6
Yeah.
years later. Fucking Baelish. I blame Baelish for everything.
It's basically his fault.
Basically
I mean, the whole show's his fault.
The whole show is Littlefinger's fault.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, except for the Night King.
I got Qyburn. Yeah, I got Qyburn points, and then I got 5 points for Tyrion's wit with Varys talking about his balls.
Yeah.
Very classy,
Good
Tyrion.
joke, because I have balls.
But I want to say this about wit and Fantasizer. I don't actually know that the scorekeeper on Fantasizer understands wit.
Ooh, fighting
hot.
I'm going to say this
Hot
because, I mean, sometimes I would agree. So that Tyrion line, yes. The person gave points for Jon Snow saying, "You've ruined horses for me."
It's pretty good.
It's okay. But if you're going to give that line points, then
Right.
I think you got to give Sansa points for saying it had its moments in reference to Joffrey's wedding. Don't you
Did
think?
that
That
not get humor points?
That
didn't
deserved,
get points.
yeah, that
That
deserved,
deserves
that's good humor.
So maybe you do know wit, Fantasizer scorekeeper, but I don't think you're
Consistent.
consistent.
Mhm.
You know, I think that Sansa line, and Sansa's not on my team, so I'm clearly not just advocating for my own
That's
success.
true. That's true. This is a Wendy point that you'd be giving her.
Yeah, I'd be giving Wendy more points. you
Which
know?
is not something Wendy needs.
So this is
because-
obviously the principle of the thing, and not me wanting to win the game.
That's
Although I
true.
do, because I'm highly competitive, and I'm kind of bummed that I'm near the bottom. Anyway.
Because I thought it was pretty hilarious when Bran just showed up at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like, it wasn't his wit. It was just sort of like my fear when I'm old is that I'll just be sitting on a couch while like family members are having a party without me, and like I'm just put into a chair, and that's what that scene.
Oh, I
is.
see what you mean.
So like that was
I thought
kind
you
of.
know you were just sitting there of your own, like.
No, I was placed there by
I see.
family members that
Okay.
want me out of the way, and I thought that about Bran, and I thought that was kind of funny, but it wasn't a wit joke. I just laughed when he was just sitting
It was
there.
a sight gag. There should be.
It was a
points for
total
sight
sight gag.
But
yeah.
he did
He's
have
a prop. He was a prop.
He did have a great moment, but it was a foreshadowing moment, so I don't think you could consider it wit. When I think it's not John. Who is it that goes up to him and says, "What are you doing? You know, what are you doing out here?" And he says, "I'm waiting for an old friend." And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, buddy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bran
That was a quip.
is.
That was a quip.
I know, but I don't think it's enough.
I don't know. I got to agree with Aaron. Hashtag no cap on quips. No
cap on quips. Although apparently very very judicious. Euron got a point for a quip that I do not think he should have gotten. He got 5 points for the quip, "They were lesser men." Not quippy enough for me.
Pretty quippy.
Maybe also I just don't like Euron at all.
Euron's garbage.
Yeah.
For sure.
He had I can't remember the line, but he had a post-coital line that was funnier than. Or was that when he said it, post-coital?
No, he
No.
said they were lesser men when he was standing in front of the mountain and was being threatened with beheading, and he was just like, eh.
He had a good.
He had
after
a
the
post-coital line.
post-coital line
Yeah.
that was funnier than they were like something about
Maybe-
the elephants or something.
Maybe he got points for that too. I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, Euron got a lot of points, and I questioned some of them. Anyway,
Well,
it's not an official beef. It's just
I get
sour
the feeling
grapes.
we won't be worried about Euron getting points for long, because I don't think he's gonna last.
I don't think so either. Although there are people who are talking about how they think Euron actually factors in more than they thought because of how prominent he was last night.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
The thing about Euron is, if all they needed was him to have boats, they could have just written that the Gold Cloaks had boats. So obviously, Euron needs to be around for something.
Yeah. Well, I think they've got to tie up. They have to tie up that loose end there somehow. I think Theon. I don't think it's over between the Greyjoy clan.
No, there's Greyjoy bad blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got bad blood. So Wendy.
She won last year.
She won last year, and she's in first place right now with 95 points, man.
Yeah.
Well played. But again, I wonder how long Beric Dondarrion lasts. So Beric Dondarrion's a big scorer for her because every time he lights that sword up, it's 50 points.
Derek Bonbarian.
Derek Bombarian, as we like to call him.
Yeah.
But so I think the other thing that remains to be seen is like, is this draft completely different for the first half of the show than the second because a bunch of people die in that third episode? Because that's what everyone is foreshadowing. How much that's just hype and how much that's truth, I don't know.
I guess in a 6-episode season though, you know that there's not a heck of a lot of time. You start to feel that pressure. You're saying we have 0 points tonight. You're like, where are we going to make up that 80? I mean, we didn't meet Willa last night. Did we? We didn't meet.
We didn't meet Willa.
We didn't meet
saw
Martha.
Alice Karstark, which
Great.
was shocking.
But yeah, here's the thing: we've got Fergus, we've got Nora, we've got Willa, and we've got Martha that we still haven't even seen on
and
screen.
Sarah.
We haven't seen Sarah on screen
My
yet.
gal, Sarah.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're in terms of gaining points, even though 3 will be a giant. I think we're suspecting that 3 will be a points smorgasbord.
But I think 3 will also wipe a lot of these faces off of this board.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
potentially. So there's a lot of buzz today about different aspects of the show. A lot of the buzz I was hearing had to specifically had to do with, Sansa and Daenerys.
Yes.
And I want to say this. I'm going to say it. I've said this for a long time. I feel like Daenerys is the worst. I have lost so much respect and affection for that character. I liked her quite a bit in seasons 1 and 2 and even part of season 3, but I feel like since the Sons of the Harpy uprising and all of that happened, she was a great conqueror, but I find her as a leader quite lackluster. And I kind of can't believe she would go into Winterfell and then be so saucy. I get that you're the queen, but Sansa has legitimate questions about how she's going to feed all these people. She's
administrative issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she's being reasonable. And then Daenerys is being all snarky.
Sansa does say Winterfell is yours, which feels like an invitation. Did she not say? She said that line. She goes, Winterfell is yours. And so for me, I think that maybe Daenerys was feeling, okay, I've been given this permission, and I get she didn't need to be so sort of cheeky, but I wonder if that was for Sansa's benefit or for some of the other doubters in the gallery.
I think this is what I think. Or this is what I wish. I wish that this late in this series that they would stop playing women this way, pitting women against each other this way, because yes, it is reasonable for Sansa to be defensive and reasonable for Dany to need to stake her claim. This makes sense. They have to mark their territory. But it seems to be happening in this cat fighty mean girls kind of way. And they did a similar thing with Sansa and Arya last year. Although Arya's such an asshole, which I love about her. She makes it hard to not be saucy.
The Hound called her a little bitch.
The Hound needs to chill.
I mean,
I did like that scene.
She did leave him for dead.
The Hound deserved it. The Hound has done some stuff.
I don't know that the Hound knows he deserves it, though.
And,
That's the thing.
And now he doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
It's
no, now he's grown.
He's come out the other side.
Now, Aaron is saying Sansa undermined Dany in public, though. That's a big deal, especially in front of the Northerners, who Dany is there to win over.
But she wasn't just undermining Daenerys in that moment. Tyrion went on a tear about all this stuff, and she was basically saying, you come into the North, I'm giving you permission and I'm making space for you, but at the same time, how are you going to make sure that we're safe?
Yeah.
That is a legitimate thing to be asking. There is a war happening.
And in light of there being a war happening, Trevor's got a good question here about how do you guys feel about the Twitter backlash around the dragon joyride? And should Dany not have known he's a Targaryen?
Great question, Trevor. I completely agree with you that this moment is controversial because there's a Martell character that we don't really see in the show, or we see him briefly in the show, but he's not an important character. But in the book, he has Targaryen blood, and he at one point rides a dragon.
Really?
Yes, and so that's how so people are saying, well, maybe she wouldn't know because
that wasn't the case.
HBO television show Daenerys hasn't seen that happen. But I think it is curious that she doesn't for a second go, wow, why are these dragons so comfortable with this dude and letting him there is I think she's being naive. Maybe she's just in love, and
Dany's not great. That's the thing. That's the other thing. The more I see the way Dany behaves, the more I think of Robert Baratheon, and the fact that Robert Baratheon was a conqueror and a terrible leader, a terrible governor, a terrible king, but a heck of a warrior with a fantastic voice.
Great voice.
And man, can he drink. But I feel like Dany is not fit to govern.
I agree with that. Oh, and I don't think she's going to be the queen in the end.
So then is this all setting up that Sansa has something to do with
The downfall of
Dany's.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think at this point it's we can't really pin a whole thing on one like pretty reasonable snarky exchange. I think the curious thing about the riding of the dragon is actually what it means for Tyrion in that triangle.
Yeah.
So I think because Tyrion has that whole moment when he's with the dragons in a few seasons ago, where he talks about all he ever wanted as a kid was a dragon, and he says that beautiful thing where he's like, it didn't even have to be a big dragon, it could be small like me, and how much he wanted to ride a dragon. And, you know, there's a lot of speculation about whether or not Tyrion is in love with Daenerys, and some of the scripts, I was reading an article today about how some of the scripts write about Tyrion looking at Daenerys as though he is in love with her, as opposed to just having
like
love for her or admiration for her.
That's like every scene with Jorah, though.
Listen.
Everyone's
but
staring
Jorah
at
deeply loves her.
Yeah, but
I don't know why all these men love her, but anyway, this is a whole other
Tyrion gives Dany a Jorah-like look. Like, that's in the script.
Jorah stare.
No, there's actually words like, he looks at her and, oh, isn't she beautiful? And he looks at the scene where Jaime is maybe going to kill the dragon in the loot train battle. There's some of the descriptive text there is around being torn between the brother he loves and this woman he loves. And it's questionable whether that love is romantic love or just a kind of love that Tyrion would have for I really think that Peter Dinklage is doing a really beautiful job of keeping Tyrion in this like sort of nebulous place where we're not 100% sure a lot of the time exactly where he's landing. I mean, he's got a pretty steady moral compass, and his desire for the realm to be safe is clear. But anyway, I think it's interesting because when Tyrion watches Jon fly by on Rhaegal, it's like, what's that gonna do for what happens to Tyrion as things unfold between Jon and Daenerys? Because he's this interesting third part of this weird triangle. And
he's the only one who, of the three of them, that actually could govern.
Yes.
And I feel like this whole speech that Dany made seasons ago about how she wants to break the wheel is clearly bullshit. She just wants her turn at the top of the wheel again. And I think ultimately the breaking of the wheel will be all the dragons being dead, all the people who have a claim for the throne being dead, and the only people left to govern are a parliament of Tyrion and Jorah and Varys and the Onion Knight and like the intelligent, reasonable people, the Jon Royces of the world, who have
Jon Royce should not be on that council.
A true statesman.
Jon Royce, he knows what's up.
The only wrong choice.
I feel like Jon Royce. That's probably how he'll
get it. That's his campaign slogan. There's no wrong choice.
On every lawn in Winterfell, it's a Jon Royce.
But yeah, I feel like that's how the wheel is broken. By this whole king, queen, blah, blah, blah. This thing just stops. And it becomes the people governing the people.
I mean, I don't mind the idea of like a structural change in the way that the government lays out. I think what's interesting about Daenerys, as much as I find her really frustrating, the journey she's been on I think is actually really satisfying in one way, because it's a journey of somebody who starts out as a revolutionary saying, I want this to change, I want to break the wheel, and as she has to actually govern, she starts to realize how challenging it is to actually do that in the face of people who want to hold on to an old system. And that's actually a really interesting tension, I think. Yeah. I feel like we've just been in the same beat for a bit too long with her. Yeah. That's all.
And Trevor Martin wants to share #no place for clever men.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, Trevor, that's good. It's tricky. I mean, I drafted Tyrion second. So my first draft pick was Arya. Because frankly, Jon and Daenerys were gone as I figured they would score well, which they so far are. But I love Arya so much, and I want to say, like, watching her be reunited with so many characters last night, I knew it was going to happen, but it was so satisfying. That moment with her and Jon, for me, like, I could watch it I watched it
Yeah.
over and over again today.
The whole episode was a really great setup. Whereas last year, when everyone kind of was coming back together for that large meeting, where you're seeing all these characters who hadn't been in
the last
scenes
episode,
together.
yeah.
This one was a bit like less political, and it was. I really think last night's episode was setting up our sort of warm and touchy-feely. I think I've seen this elsewhere, but really setting up our like, oh god, they're together. Like, I cry. I mean, I had the tear half a dozen times.
Yeah.
But when like characters coming back together, just seeing each other, just to set that up to knock us down and completely destroy us in the next 2 to 3 episodes.
Because now that Arya and Sansa like each other, you get to kill one of them, and that's going to hurt. Because when they were being mean to each other, that's not going to hurt.
Yeah, and it was just series after series of that last night of just getting people reunited just to rip them apart from each other and from us, in a sense, which is what the whole season is.
Well, and like talk about devastation. I mean, I agree. I mean, how much does Samwell Tarly have to go through in his life? This
poor man.
Poor soul. I mean, I love him to bits, and I drafted him because I think he's gonna survive the whole shebang.
Sam's the kind of guy who needs to be on that parliament.
Yeah, I mean, as we know from Lord of the Rings, he ends up writing the tale of what happened, right? Samwise Tarly. But I think that I just found it remarkable that they would have Daenerys tell him that his father was dead, then his brother, then he would be crying and go out. Oh, it was Sam who asked Bran why he's outside, because then Bran is like, now guess what, broken-hearted Sam, go tell Jon Snow this massive piece of news.
But Bran was totally right.
He was.
The moment you go to Jon and say, my family's dead and your girlfriend aunt did it, and she's your aunt?
Yeah.
You gotta tell your friend.
You gotta tell your friend.
And that was such a perfect moment, because there's the love for Sam that Jon has, and then there's the sympathy for Sam that Jon has, and that's exactly the place that you want to tell someone who could kill you in a second about something completely horrid.
And Sam knows exactly what to say, because there's that moment where Jon says, are you telling me that my father, who's the most honorable man I know, lied to me?
My whole life.
And it's like, not just anyone could then say what Sam said, which is your father vowed to your mother, your uncle vowed to your mother that he would protect you, and he did. And he's able, the great thing about Sam, and it's what I love about that character is because he's so beaten down by his horrible father, and yet out of that he learns how to have a kind of conviction where people listen to him, and it's, for me, it's such a beautiful story about how you can come from an abusive place, from being abused, and there's a resilience that comes from that, of you being able to then speak truth and people know you're being true. He's just so beautiful. I love him so much, but I felt so deeply for him. Yeah, this poor guy.
And I do love that scene had to happen in the right in front of,
with Ned looking over his shoulder and Lyanna watching over Lyanna's shoulder.
It didn't need, it just happened. It was almost too perfect. Like, he couldn't have told them out in the courtyard.
No.
Yeah.
Also, I also love how they love to inject, like how Sam is also the clown. Where like, so there's that moment where he's like, I transcribed a diary and Bran did what Bran does. Like he always has like a moment, and then when he's in the crypt and he's afraid to be in there and he doesn't want to interrupt, and he like falls. It's like, oh, Sam. But like not in you don't laugh at him, and that's the beautiful work of that actor. Yeah, what a beautiful, and this is that actor's first ever television job ever. Yeah, like comes from a theater background.
And was it, he said that he had 3 hours of on-camera training in his life. Yeah, and his 4th hour was in the north shooting Game of Thrones.
Yeah, like how crazy. There's also an interesting interview with him, I think, that's coming out or just recently came out. I think it's with Joanna Robinson, who's a great writer who talks a lot about Game of Thrones. She writes for Vanity Fair. She covers a lot of stuff. You should totally read her stuff and follow her on Twitter. But he's quoted, that actor, just talking about that scene, and he with Daenerys and with Jorah, and he talks about how it's hard to trust Daenerys now that you see the way she's behaving, the
Yeah.
way she spoke about that, the way she did that to the Tarleys. I mean, she has made some really some choices that really make you consider if she really does want to break the wheel or not. And again, I think what's interesting is Daenerys is a very inspiring leader for men. She knows how to get people on side. So does Jon, but Jon has a kind of nobility to him that Daenerys doesn't.
And
but
Jon doesn't want it.
Jon doesn't
But then when it
want
happens, he's capable.
I didn't know that there was such an anti-Daenerys sentiment, and that's a double pun. But
anti-Daenerys.
Anti-Daenerys. But I didn't. This is going to change my watching of.
Is it?
A little bit.
I mean, I don't know if there are more people who feel this way. I think there are some, but I felt this way for many seasons.
The thing is, I'm pre-season, and Aaron and I discussed this quite a bit. I was totally here for Sansa. Standing, is that what they call it?
You're standing for Sansa.
I'm
you stand
total
for
team Sansa.
Yeah.
Everything she does, I
Yeah.
think she's like the best character on the show. I want her to have the Iron Throne, and I want her to marry the Hound, Tyrion, or nobody, or just be by herself. But I like whatever.
The Hound.
The Hound.
I know that's in the book at some point or something.
I mentioned it on Saturday. I'm just so I know that it's probably not going to happen, but she's technically still married to Tyrion.
Yeah.
So
Because Baelish just kind of bullshitted that she was available, and
That's
then
right.
she got married again to
I mean,
Ramsay.
so I guess in some ways, like, I don't know how it works in Westeros. I don't know what Westerosi law says about polygamy. She wasn't actually married to both of them, I guess.
But I guess maybe she was married to both of them.
They're just
But
property anyway. in
Either
the
way,
show.
it kind of seems like if Sansa's the Lady of Winterfell, Tyrion might be the Lord of Winterfell.
Give him some points.
Right?
Give him
That's
a
a bit of a
promotion.
promotion.
Yeah,
I do love how they mention their wedding, but I mean, my first question, if I hadn't seen someone in 5 to 7 years that I married, but I didn't, I just left.
Yeah.
And I said, "Are we still married?"
I know, that's what I would
What's
think.
the rule? Like, should we talk to Sam? I think you got to go to Samwell and go.
Yeah.
What's the rule on this?
Yeah.
Or go to
Maester in training.
Maester Vulcan?
Maester Rob
Oh,
Reiner.
Vulcan. Maester Rob Reiner.
Yes.
No, Maester Reiner. Are we married?
Do you like annul this? Or?
There's a storyline like that happening on Jane the Virgin right now. Like an amnesia, like guy comes back, doesn't remember who he is. Are we still married? This is an interesting question.
Very Days of Our Lives.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, Jane the Virgin is like a telenovela.
That's totally
right?
a telenovela.
Yeah. What else? Okay, so let's talk about Arya's mystery weapon.
Oh, well, and her reunion
With my man Gendry.
Gendry. So there's a lot of speculation here about the flirtation of this. Now,
Ship 'em.
A little bit of romance.
I do not think that's going to come to fruition. Although part of me wants it to.
I want it to.
She needs to thaw her cold assassin heart.
Our girl needs a little bit of fun. Do you know
Put
what I
some
mean?
dragon glass in that heart.
Nice. She gets her kicks,
Sorry.
Assassinating people, which I'm into.
Yeah.
So it's like sort of alarming how much I love that about Arya.
Well, right down to the shirt you're wearing.
My Kill Bill Arya shirt, which I got on Redbubble. If you wanna partake.
If you want one, we'll
Her
put a link in the.
Yeah,
we'll
if you
put a link in
wanna
there for it.
grab a little Arya assassination T-shirt.
Aaron Thompson is saying Gendry was looking good.
He was.
He was. Yeah.
Gendry's looking
All
fit.
caps, good.
He put on a lot of muscle for
He's
the.
fit.
Well,
He's been like
he's
dragon
all that
glass.
smithing.
He's also the only one like he's like 24 hours a day, and everyone else like Bronn has time to do what Bronn's
Shag.
doing.
Yeah.
Gendry's down in the pits like.
Making glass
dragon glass.
axes.
I do love I loved their class, their little like Milady, Lady Stark.
Yeah.
I loved the whole Valyrian steel. I knew you were just another rich girl. You don't know any other
Love
rich
it.
girls.
Yeah.
Love it.
Flirt.
Why didn't she get some wit points? That's a witty line. Anyway,
Oh, that's a good point.
Um,
You should contest that.
I think Arya had a few moments where she could have gotten some wit
And
points.
was her first smile with Jon or with Gendry? Like I remember we saw her smile, and it's like that is not a face I had seen.
Yeah.
She
in
had a little
ages.
bit of a smile with Jon and then a kind of like pulling it back.
Yeah.
Then she was like, oh shit, the Hound is alive,
Yeah.
which was a great moment.
Yeah.
And then it was Gendry. It warmed her heart because they were such pals and that was such an important part of her journey. You know?
I can't imagine when she's reunited with Hot Pie. The smile.
She met Hot Pie.
Again.
Another reunion on the way back down.
Guys, I hope Hot Pie makes it to the end.
I wanna
and
see the
we
trio.
Just
I want Gendry, Hopeye, and Arya to just
The three amigos.
That's probably a sequel.
enjoy a nice
Yeah.
little cob together.
The
You
three
know, have a
amigos.
baguette.
Three Amigos.
Yeah.
I'd watch that.
Or like a Hangover style.
Or it's like three amigos and the
The
Hound.
hangover stuff.
Like a Hangover style.
Yeah.
movie. I don't know.
That would be great. Let's spin that off.
Yeah.
So the speculation is that the weapon that we see her wielding it apparently, or there's conjecture in the trailer, because I've read some great things that I agree with, where it's like she hasn't trained with that quarterstaff for all that time with the Faceless Men to not
use
this
one.
final season.
Yeah.
And also the fact that her fight scene with Brienne was so entertaining that we really want to see Arya fight, right? So apparently this weapon looks like it might be a spear or a quarterstaff with
Projectile dragon glass?
No, actually, well, what they're saying is that it looks like it's got a pointy tip on both ends, but that you can also separate it and use it as two stabbing implements.
Like Darth Maul style.
Yeah.
Right.
So I wonder. I'm curious because Needle and Baelish's dagger are not. They're like close range weapons.
Mm-hmm. And you want to keep some distance from the undead if you can.
Yeah, right. So I'm curious to see. In the trailer, it looks like there's one scene where she's twirling it around, baton styles, and then when she's running in the crypt, which everyone's like, who's she running from, or what is she running from? It looks like she's got the shorter version in her hand.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
It might also have fire on it, but that might be. It's hard to tell, right? Because it's so dark.
Is Beric Dondarrion involved?
Derek Bombarian? I don't know.
The dragon glass axe was a pretty cool.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
That was a cool, unwieldy, just a monster. Of
That was
a
like
weapon.
a Thor Stormbringer size beastly weapon.
Oh,
I also love how the Hound is like throwing shit. Like the Hound, the Hound has come, a long way, baby. But still, also
It's essentially the same
he's
character.
essentially the same,
He's just got different alliances.
curmudgeon-y. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're not gonna. But I think it would be too much if the Hound was suddenly like a cheery old chap. Yo, good to see Arya. I don't know whose accent that is.
I feel like
I don't
he's
need him to be cheery, but he also doesn't have to be an asshole.
But I feel like he's an asshole who happened to be sworn to protect Joffrey. And as soon as
That's
Joffrey died, he was just a freelance asshole.
Yeah.
And so now
Yeah,
he
right.
can be an asshole wherever he wants.
And he's
do
in a
whatever he
lot
wants.
of pain.
Yeah.
His body is
He must
hurting
be. Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, and that manifests itself in all sorts of ways.
yeah, I mean, she did leave him to die.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
But I robbed you first.
I know. Again.
No points for that?
No points for that. Arya had so much wit last night.
Yeah.
I'm
You
sorry.
gotta get on the. I mean,
Calling bullshit.
Your 15 points could be 25.
It could be. It should have been. It should have been. Apparently, they played King Robert's theme at the beginning of that episode, and it's one of the only times that they've replayed that since.
As everyone was coming to Winterfell? Well,
Yeah.
the last time we saw a king come to Winterfell,
Yeah.
it would make sense when a queen comes to Winterfell that we get that same music. Maybe it's not King Robert's theme. Maybe it's just the Protector of the Realms theme.
Ooh,
The royal theme.
The royal theme. There was also apparently an Ed Sheeran reference in the bronze scene, but I didn't catch it.
Musically?
Yeah, no, there's a line.
Oh.
Like from
Yeah.
his.
Oh, because I think the women are talking about the people who died.
Oh, and one of them
Yeah.
was Ed Sheeran's character.
Remember when Ed Sheeran was in that?
I do. But
Yeah.
what?
He
I
was
forget
one of
his
the
name.
Lannisters' men or something
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.
And then,
Yeah, I do. But what was the line? Like
I don't remember.
now my
Somebody got their
bedsheets
face-
Smell like you or something.
I really hope it was not my
I
bed
wish.
sheets smell like you.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
I
They
wonder
could have
if
fit that in. There
I'm
was a
in
lot
love
of
with it.
action
there
on
were
the
some
bed
bed
sheets.
sheets. Yeah.
Oh my god. I wish it's not that.
But I wonder if his character is the one that had his face burned off, or like which one of the people who they
Yeah.
were discussing was Ed Sheeran.
I wonder.
If you know, tell us. I'm really curious.
I don't want that in. I don't want any more of that.
Oh, I don't need to
Any more
know.
of the-
Ed Sheeran.
I don't need Ed Sheeran.
Oh no, that
But
was
knowing,
a
knowing he's
passing.
dead would be all right. Or
Yeah.
knowing his face got
not
burned
real
off.
Ed Sheeran, but
No,
Fake Ed
no,
Sheeran.
not real.
I'm sorry.
no.
For a second, I was like,
mean,
what?
his
No,
character.
certainly not
I don't
the
have.
man.
I
The
don't have
character.
any.
Oh, no,
kind
no,
of-
okay, yeah,
Oh,
no, I
okay.
just-
no. I'm
Oh.
okay. I'm okay with Ed Sheeran.
That
It's
would-
all right.
that would
I'm just
character.
I'm just
I
curious
know.
which character
I just
was
got
his.
confused about where that conversation was
This will
going.
definitely now be trending.
Yes, Ed Sheeran is dead. What? Ed Sheeran's face burned off. What?
my bed sheets
character of
smell
Edge.
like you. Now my bed sheets smell like you. What was I going to say? Oh, so yeah, let's talk a little bit. There's a lot of traction on Twitter about Missandei and Grey Worm.
Yes.
And the North.
The
And-
always brilliant Nicole Stamp
Yeah.
was
Loved.
saying that there was
Nicole
some
Stamp.
real like Get Out vibes
Yeah.
going on as the only two people of color stroll up on the North
What
and
a-
watch these scraggly, crazy-looking white folks stare at them.
God.
What an awesome moment that they didn't need to even have a line. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I really liked. Aaron and I were talking about just the face acting last night.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
There
face
was so
acting.
much face acting
Yeah.
and good face acting, not like
Not
like,
Jan
"Whoa,
Royce.
whoa," like that. Yeah.
Jan
Not
Royce
Jan
did that.
Jan Royce's
Yeah.
face acting
Yeah.
is, but maybe it's good, but in comparison to all the great face acting, it's conspicuous
Yeah.
for
Agreed.
for that.
Yeah.
But that little moment where you just, it's like, that's filmmaking, baby. That was like
Yeah.
the people, them, their look,
Yeah.
the people, scene.
That's also editing. The
Yeah,
power of
yeah.
editing.
Oh my
they could have
God.
had that expression after looking at a pie, and it would have had a different feeling entirely. Like
Well,
it would have meant
pies
we're
aren't welcome here.
Right. It would have meant we're hungry for that pie.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
by having that look, you're.
It was that was an awesome moment, and also seeing all these people in locations they shouldn't be in. I don't know why that's so satisfying on a
Yeah.
TV show.
Yeah.
Seeing people in places and it's not
They've
just
never
Game of
been,
Thrones.
yeah.
You're like, that you shouldn't be in that. That you're not meant for that climate. I so
Crossover.
satisfying
Yeah,
about that.
and let's talk about that because the Unsullied don't look like they've winterized that much.
They
And I'm
used to
gonna feel
have
like it's
bare
gonna be
arms.
cold.
They used to have bare arms, and now they have like I don't know Patagonia, thin like
Yeah.
a thin.
Sponsored by
Right.
Patagonia.
There's like a fine layer of material now that apparently they're winterproof.
I don't know. Yeah, I feel like I keep coming back to the reasonable Sansa, who is like,
how's that
how
gonna work?
on earth are we gonna do this now?
feed. Yeah, sir.
Yeah,
Feeding
feed the people. Like that's a lot of people.
It's a good question, man.
Also, the dragons. So now the irony was, of course, that Kono reports, our favorite Dothraki,
Mm-hmm.
reports that the dragons aren't eating enough because they're not happy in the north.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame them.
they
It's
needed to go for a
cold.
little joyride. Now
They're not.
happy.
They're temperamental. Eh?
They're
They didn't eat in the
very-
crypt. Although I wouldn't eat in the crypt either. In the
Nah,
the
who wants to eat
cave
in the
there.
dark?
Cave.
Yeah.
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 Or in the
But they're really sensitive.
yeah. I mean, you don't want to piss them off.
No.
It's a danger.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like the fact that there is now some knowledge that Viserion is risen, watching that information spread will be fascinating because there are big points in our pool for killing dragons. And I'm curious if Viserion can die twice. Because there were points in in season 7 when Viserion was killed by the Night King, and then he was risen. But now that Viserion's flying
Yeah.
around again, if we kill Viserion, do we get points for killing a dragon? Because when little Ned Umber died,
yeah.
we did not, like Bondo did not get points for Ned Umber dying twice,
No, once. But
because he died and then came back and then was killed.
well, but that's because but by rights you would get points because Ned, when they show up, so let's talk about that scene. So when Tormund and Ed and Beric and company show up and they're talking, Ned is behind them. Ned has already been killed.
So there were no points for off-screen
So
death.
there was no points for Ned already dying.
Okay.
So now, then Ned
Comes
is
to life.
undead Ned, comes to life as a zombie and then gets killed and therefore is now dead.
So that was a memorable death.
Yes.
And coming back as an ice zombie.
So it seems to me that if you kill an ice zombie,
That's a death.
that's a death. So if,
Okay.
let's say, like for instance, Robert Glover in the north,
Rabbit.
Robert.
Wascally
Wascally
Wabbit.
Robert Glover has
Yeah.
decided, you know what? Screw you again, Jon Snow, because that's all he does.
I'm sick of getting sassed by Lyanna Mormont.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving Deepwood Mott.
Yeah, so I'm staying in Deepwood Mott, and if he comes as a white,
And then gets killed.
yeah,
Lots
Yeah.
of points for
By
what-
fantasy
Is that
rules, I think I did see Trevor say this, but I was saying this, by fantasy rules, what's dead may never die. Right? Therefore, you don't get the points.
unless you are unless you were de-animated by Valyrian steel, when you cease to be a shambling dead man.
I don't envy the people that fantasize her.
Oh
I
my
do
god,
not.
this is some tough.
I know, and
Yeah.
I gave you some criticism, but you do an excellent thing here.
Yeah.
You
Wow.
facilitate us being able to do this.
Yeah.
So,
Aaron Thompson would like to talk about Drogon's look at Jon.
yes, I want to talk about that
Is this
as well.
is this the one as he was like making out with his aunt? Is this the one we're thinking about?
What's that about? Now,
They are
do you think
voyeuristic
that,
dragons.
But do you think that is about the fact that he senses the Targaryen in him? Is that because
He's protective of his mom?
He's protective of his mom.
It has a who dis vibe to it.
A little bit.
Who dis?
Yeah.
But it could be, I know who this is.
Yeah, it could be you're my brother.
Yeah.
Because
Or-
if Daenerys is the mother of dragons,
Yeah.
you're my cousin.
Because they didn't give that, they have met Dany's friends before, like when Tyrion took the
Yeah.
chains off
Yeah.
them.
And-
Like they're very good judges of character.
They really are.
And
They
it's,
know who to.
They're like bloodhounds.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just really know what's going on.
and it's worth bringing up again that they were very comfortable with Tyrion, and there's a lot of speculation that Tyrion is also Targaryen.
Yes, and
So-
on the topic of where did dwarf characters in the show come from, I read an interesting theory that if Cersei is indeed pregnant, that it's not a hysterical pregnancy, and she has a dwarf child, that would be a fascinating turn of events. That it's in the blood of the Lannisters to have dwarves, and not a like Targaryen thing necessarily. But I wonder.
I mean, my take on that is just that I don't think that this is going to play out over 9 months.
Right.
Like, I don't think the next
she's
5
not
episodes
she's
are
not
gonna-
showing. So at best, we're at like month 2.
Do you think?
There's
Do we think she
7
is
more months of this?
actually pregnant? This is still a question. What do you think out there? Do you think Cersei is actually pregnant? I can't.
I'm not as interested in her being pregnant.
No.
I don't
Especially
care.
if Dany's pregnant. It's like, you know, like when sitcoms in the 80s got to season 7 and 8. I'm thinking Full House, and then everyone's having babies and
Yeah.
there's twins, and like I don't need everyone.
And then we
to,
get like a next generation.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting if Dany and Jon have a
Targaryen,
Targaryen
incest baby.
but I don't know if they need to.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
Because I don't think Dany is going to survive. Like, again, I don't think it's going to take 9 months for this story
That's
to
right.
wrap up.
Yeah.
And I don't think either Dany survives it, or I don't know.
Well, Trevor's asking, will the dragons eventually have to choose between Jon and Dany?
Ooh.
Although I don't think the dragons will
Dragon Ball.
understand. I don't think the dragons understand why family members would fight. I mean,
But
they
they're gonna
wouldn't
have to
understand
fight.
Dany versus.
How sentient are they in that way?
I mean, they're good judges of character, but I don't feel like they would understand Dany versus Jon fight. I think they would both just choose Dany.
I
That's
really
mom.
do think they're going to learn that lesson when they have a fight with their brother.
Yep.
Like when
That's
they
gonna
have
be
to
neat.
fight Viserion. Like that has to be a thing where there's 3 dragons in the sky
Mhm.
flaming.
Yeah.
One shooting
at
in
each
fire.
Yeah, so
That's
they'll
blue.
because
Yeah.
that's every single, whether it's already happened or about to happen, family members fighting family members.
Yeah.
And I think that dragons are not immune from that. So I you know, going back to especially even the pouring of the gold on Viserys'
Yes.
head, like there has to be some dragon fight.
There
Yeah.
will be. There will
So
be.
I think they will learn that family fighting thing that every human on the show seems to really just get really nice.
And considering that they're good judges of character, they're going to understand our brother died. What's this? I think
Yeah.
that's going to be going on.
Yeah, they have a common language, and
Yeah.
that Viserion is not going to speak that language anymore.
I imagine not.
They must also be like probably pretty sad.
That's the other
Like
thing.
there's
When they said
separation anxiety
That's right.
about Viserion.
when they said, "Oh, the dragons aren't eating," I immediately thought, "Well, they're sad.
Right.
Their
Yeah.
brother's dead."
They're-
But Danny's like, "No, there's just no food around. They're
Right.
grumpy. They don't like the North." It's like, or they're in mourning. No,
It's
like
funny
dogs
because
do that.
I find also Dany and the Dragons, which also sounds like a
Dany and the
great
Dragons, like Benny and the
Elton
Jets.
prog
John.
rock
Yeah.
band.
Hey, we're Dany and the Dragons.
Thanks everybody, Dany and the Dragons. But I think that Dany and the Dragons, like she has love for them, but I don't think again, there's a kind of lack of depth there for
Yeah.
me with Dany. I don't know. Maybe I expect too much from her. Maybe I'm being a mean girl now. But I want her. I think there was so much promise, and I guess I'm disappointed that she's not more of a leader.
Well, I think she stopped growing around season 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And the other characters haven't. They've continued to grow.
But she grew so much.
She did.
It was
you
in
couldn't
leaps and
possibly
bounds.
keep up with that growth. You'd be...
Well, at some point, she needed to learn how to govern, and never truly did. She learned how to like fend off enemies and keep a city, but she never really learned to keep everybody happy and have people love her in an entire like continent. She figured out how to look after a city and like a bay.
Yeah. Well, I think also she's been trying to figure out who to trust. And sometimes, you know, I mean, Tyrion is great, but Tyrion also makes mistakes. And, you know, I think it's had to be a combination of Tyrion, Varys, Olenna, Jorah, Barristan Selmy, Dario Naharis. Like, she's had a lot of advisors.
And Aaron agrees. Dany surrounds herself with good advisors.
Yeah, you're right, Aaron. Yeah,
Which is what a leader should...
Really. And honestly, if you got rid of the leader, you would just have a parliament of good advisors. And that's a government.
But I don't want... I'd be really disappointed if the show ends with a sensible leader and a parliament of good advisors. Like we've watched 100. I don't know how many hours. 100 hours maybe. I don't know. It seems like 100 hours. We've thought about it.
We're like 70 hours at least.
And at the end we get a real solid chicken in every pot leader.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
chicken in every pot.
So there's something I don't know. Again, we've had the extreme that the Night King will be the ruler, and I think that I don't know if there's any perfect. The criticisms you're leveling at Dany, I think, are also everyone will have a flaw. Whether it be Jon Snow or Sansa or Royce.
Jan
Royce.
Takes it all.
If Jan Royce is on the throne, certainly has some positives. But
listen, Jan Royce gets a bad rap on this couch, but he has his strengths. He's served the Vale for quite some time now, hasn't he?
I guess he has.
Yeah,
he's been around for a while.
He had to deal with Robin Arryn and Lysa Arryn. I mean, if you had to deal with that would be a lot. So let me ask you this. Would you, at the end of all this, would you want to see ruling the Seven Kingdoms, Protector of the Realm, if that's the way it goes? So imagine that...
If there had to be a king or a queen,
would
I would say the only person who is fully equipped to do this is Bran. Because he knows everything at all times and would be able to govern in the way a god emperor would govern.
I just think that's a real waste. That's when people want
boring.
Oprah as president.
Yeah, it's boring, but it is
got other things to offer than presidency.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like that. For me, that's not where Bran exists. Bran is now otherworldly. Bran is not. I don't think.
Aaron says, "Woo, Bran!"
Yeah, because you want those points.
Yeah, there he is in your team. That makes sense.
Nice. I don't know. It's interesting. That's an interesting.
But it's a good question to
offer.
close. It's a good question to close the episode.
Yeah.
With.
After
Who should be on this episode?
And
Who
this
should
will
be on the
change.
throne?
This will change week to week and minute to minute.
Right.
And I'll wake up in the middle of the night tonight going, "Why did I say that on a live broadcast?" Jaime Lannister.
Oh.
Great leader. Has gone through it. Compassionate. Knows not to turn his back on, but he didn't really. Knows that he's seen everything, and he would avoid those mistakes.
He's made selfless choices in the past.
I think he'd be a wise and prudent leader, and even though I really think Sansa would be great, I also think Sansa would be really great as the Winterfell. But so for me, it's right now at this point in time, and I don't know what he's going to say to Bran. Probably sorry about that, mate. But
I hope it's those exact words.
Sorry, that's a writer. There's a writer speaking. Sorry about that, mate. But for me, it's Jaime.
Well, Trevor disagrees on Bran as well, and he says he's not even a person anymore.
Yeah.
Tyrion would be the best steward, according to Trevor.
Yep.
Good point, Trevor.
I would say, if I were to choose, that I would say Tyrion. I think Sansa is an interesting option. I think she's doing a really fantastic job in the North, and I think that would bode well for her potentially running the whole show. But I do think that Tyrion he's made some mistakes, so I think he would need some really great advisors. I think some sort of interesting combination of Tyrion on the throne, Sansa as hand or something, the Queen in the North, Jon as like some kind of army some sort of battle, some sort of advisor in that capacity. I think that combination would be interesting, but I really think in terms of who has the kind of scope, I think it's Tyrion. I think it's always been Tyrion, because he sees people for who they are. He knows so much about Westeros and about history. He's been to
He drinks
every
and he knows
corner.
things.
He drinks and he knows things.
I love that
I agree
one.
with you, Trevor.
Yeah.
I think Tyrion is the choice.
And I actually think that the show could end with Tyrion on the throne if the throne exists.
Yeah.
And people wouldn't go, I feel ripped off.
No,
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Whereas I think almost anyone else, we've talked about Dany and Jon going like, okay, you've been playing that since season 1.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that would be like a really obvious and expected ending.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the Tyrion ending might be the most satisfying ending for those of us who have spent a lot of time on this program.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why I picked him second in my draft was because I thought that was a possibility. I thought he might ride a dragon. I thought he might take the throne. And I think he'll be around for a long time. I hope so. I love Tyrion. I mean, talk about one of the most interesting characters in the whole thing.
Trevor says Sansa would be a good Lady Olenna.
Yes, she would.
I mean, she's learned from so many strong, good and bad, strong women on the show.
Yes.
She learned a lot from Cersei.
Yeah.
And she also, I think what she learned to do with Cersei is pick out the things that could work for her from the nasty, diabolical stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where my Jamie thought comes from.
Yeah.
But he's learned a lot.
He's learned a lot from doing some pretty shitty things.
So let's end things. Let's wrap things up with Jamie. I wanna, because that was the last. So the last frames
Last thing we saw was Jamie.
of
Right.
the episode were Jamie. There's some amazing gifs right now.
Yes.
Of the first episode ever of the series and that shot because it's so identical.
Him just taking his helmet off and his golden locks, and
Yeah.
then he takes off that hood and his gray beard.
Yeah.
He's been through it. Jamie's been through it. So what do we think what are your predictions about how they will handle and deal with Jamie?
Oh, geez. I think nobody's going to like him but Tyrion, and people barely like Tyrion.
I know.
So this is going to be bad. We
Yeah.
are, like, Daenerys, this man killed Daenerys' father. So this is going to be an interesting... I mean, Daenerys also never met her father. So if the hand of the queen says he's good people, is that enough for Dany? I don't know.
So
Yeah. Go.
so much is going on there. Like I think that her seeing Sam's reaction to telling her I killed your father, and then having to reconcile that when she sees Jamie is going. That has to mean something,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
she, so. That was a moment where I said, okay,
There's symmetry.
there's going to be a symmetry there. And the other thing I thought about was earlier in the episode, Bronn is tasked to kill Jamie
Both
and
Lannisters.
Tyrion.
Yeah.
And Bronn is certainly not
I don't think
going
he's
to
gonna
do
do that,
this.
no.
It's probably going to result in his demise. But there's so much pointing towards Jamie, and we don't see him until the end.
Yeah.
and I
And
just love
Trevor's
that.
saying, did Bran wait outside all night
Yeah.
to creep stare at Jamie
It
when
was
he
so.
arrived?
It was just like he's
Yeah.
just sitting there.
Pee.
He's
Yeah.
just sitting there in the
Yeah.
square, and like he's.
I mean, and to be fair, it's not like he had anywhere to go. That is not a wheelchair accessible fortress.
No.
It's true.
So
they really
just
haven't.
hang out in the mud. You're kind of frozen
he
there.
really misses Hodor.
Yeah.
No one's
Hodor.
there.
All-terrain Hodor.
But yeah,
I've been taking a drink for Hodor.
Oh.
so I don't. Again, for me, one of the most exciting things of the year is what happens to Jamie, because 6, 7, 8 things could happen to him, and they could all be exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they could all happen in a row. Like, we
Yeah.
could see a crazy successive number of things happen to Jamie from here on out.
Okay, so here's what I think. I don't have specifics, but I do know this. Jamie Lannister, number one, is one of the most charming and and deep down inside genuine people. He's grown quite a bit from the despicable person that he
Yeah,
was.
from the pure garbage he was in
Yeah.
the first episode.
And I think having Brienne there, so the other person who
Yeah.
will vouch for Jamie is Brienne. And I think that, yes, I think you're right. People don't really love Tyrion. People don't really know Brienne that well. But I think that there are enough people who I think could push positively for Jamie, and he could say enough that things could get smoothed over. I think Bran has made his peace with what's happened. Everything that's happened has been inevitable in Bran's
Well, there's not much
mind.
Bran left.
Yeah.
He's the three-eyed
three-eyed
raven. Now.
raven.
There's too much universe happening in that dude to feel angry because he's Bran.
Yeah. So I think that I don't think he will be. I think it will be rough for him. But I don't think Dany is going to exact any kind of revenge. I think that's an old, bygone thing. And I think Jon will say, "Listen, I hate the Lannisters as much as anybody, and I have just as much reason to hate this person and hate that family." At the same time,
this guy's kid killed my uncle dad.
Yeah, and but there are monsters coming that we have to fight, and I just found out that you are my aunt. So I think like there are too many.
There are better fish to fry than who killed your dad before you were born.
Yeah, I think like the Jaime thing won't last very long because it can't because there's just way too much going on.
I really want to know what Bran's words are.
I know.
Well, Aaron thinks Brienne is going to get Sansa and Arya on side with Jaime.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. And then he'll have to do something early on to prove that he's great. Something to show that he's helpful.
And he always has to he always does it.
Wait, and for a guy who never had to prove anything because of who he was, and the fact that his little brother was the one who had to prove he was worth anything, it's kind of nice to see that now he's the one nobody likes, and he's got to rise to the challenge with one hand.
And I love that Jaime and Tyrion are together again. You know, like that relationship, that's a special one.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see where it goes. I mean, I think last night's episode was, for what they had to accomplish, which is to basically lay the groundwork for the last 5 episodes and get all of these people together. I thought they did a pretty great job of doing that and keeping it entertaining.
And I really cringe at the any criticism that nothing happened on the show last night. Like that
all the pieces were put in such fascinating places, and it's funny. Trevor says Bran is the only one who can save Jaime. If he says he needs to live, that'll do it.
Yeah, you're right, Trevor. That's a really good call.
And the question really becomes like, how much of a Doctor Strange is Bran in this scenario? Does he know exactly how all of this is going to play out, and is he going to try to look after certain people, or is he just watching things happen the way they're going to happen?
That's a really good question. So up until this point on the show, Bran's magic has been
to stop the Night King from doing what the Night King is doing. But does Bran give any care to who sits on some throne in the South?
I think he concerns himself with larger issues. I think Bran gets messages in a kind of urgent way. For instance, in that moment with Sam, I think he was like, okay, he has to know now. And I think he can only get it's like a channel, right? I feel like he can only get those messages as they need to happen. I don't think he can see that far into the future.
Well, he's living all time at once.
Yeah.
So he only focuses when he needs to do something.
Yeah.
But then there's enough Bran there to crack a joke about how, you're a man now. Almost.
Yes.
It's a very interesting statement.
He does seem to be able to control it, though, because at the end of season 7, someone said, "Can you see that?" The marriage between Lyanna and Rhaegar, and he goes, and he like ponders it for a second, and then he's there.
Yeah.
So like he can see. I don't think he can't see that way really, or can he? What if someone go, "Hey man, like can just tell us, man, so we can enjoy."
Well, it begs the question: where did any of the prophecies about Azor Ahai come from? Did those prophecies come from a previous three-eyed raven who saw far ahead, or did it come from Bran telling someone in the past about it? And maybe we'll find out in this season, or maybe it doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters. I think in terms of that moment with Lyanna and Rhaegar, I think when someone suggests something to him and he can focus on it, I think you're right, Matt. Yeah. I think it's probably that like he can access lots of things and then he has to really focus on something.
Right.
And Aaron agrees. Bran does interfere when he knew exactly when Sam needed to tell Jon. But again, I think that's doesn't have anything to do with the Iron Throne. Everything he's doing now is about stopping the Night King. I think that's the only thing that matters to Bran.
I think so too. Yeah, and their weird connection, right?
And we should all get quip points for almost.
Yeah, I don't know. The Bran thing, I've said this for ages, and I've never loved the Bran character, despite the fact that we picked first overall. It felt like a smart pick.
Yeah.
But if he's just going to sit around, like,
not getting a lot of
tell
points.
people to do things, then...
But every episode that he wargs, you'll get 50 points.
Well,
so,
I mean, we're down to 5 episodes, and I saw Nary a warg last evening.
Yeah, okay. Well, I wish you luck.
I think it's
Fortune
gonna
in
be
the
okay.
worst to come, David Brock. That's my favorite
Valor
line
Mogul.
from the show.
Yeah, Valor
Valor Johiris, right? The Free City of Bravos. Wisdom from the Free City of Bravos. Thank you all for joining us.
And thank you for interacting with
yeah.
us. It's so much fun to do this with you.
Yeah.
And on the couch and on the internet. It's pretty great. And Aaron says, get warging, Bran.
Get working, Brand. So we will be back next week to talk hashtag Couch of Thrones. You can find us on Twitter or Facebook.
Same couch, different people.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to get us hashtag Couch of Thrones on Twitter, Facebook, anywhere. If you're looking for it, that's the hashtag. You can find it on. It'll also be on YouTube. If this is the first episode you're seeing and you're like, whoa, they've done this before? Yeah. Hop on YouTube on Your Geek News. All the episodes are there.
Yeah. We'll see you soon.
We'll see you next week.
Thrones, yeah. Couch of Thrones, yeah. Couch of